It might seem incredible that there are generals still alive in this rampant war zone of southern Norway, but this is another 9th Age battle. A breakthrough objective and diagonal deployment between Sylvan Elves and Highborne Elves. They deploy an eagle each first. The next drop is for the Sylvan Elf player. Let's first survey the battlefield. These are the Sylvan Elf spells. They've dropped thus so far. Everything is behind cover pretty much, or in the forests, behind the impassable terrain, which is the high elven fiefdom of ages long past. Now, the high elf player just decided to drop everything. After the Sylvan Elves, this is how the highborne elves wound up dropping their army. A heavy, strong front line, very aggressively taking the breakthrough, and the Sylvan Elves counter by doing this. They put their wild huntsmen, their Dryads, and the avatar just gets a spot on the flank there, in addition to the blade dancers which were deployed before. The Wizard Master here, everything is angling up on this side to try to counter the breakthrough. We have a special forest today. It's called a magical jungle. That means it's opaque terrain and cannot be seen through. That's pretty decisive here, since the wild huntsmen, for example, are hiding behind it. The highborne elves will be going first. I don't even have to ask. The Sylvan Elf army lost a moderate amount of wounds in the first highborne elf turn. 4 blade dancers, 1 wild huntsman, and 4 Dryads, and 2 wounds on the avatar of nature, more importantly, because the highborne elf spell went straight through, Quicksilver Lash. The highborne elf player also got off the hereditary spell for so good magic face, moderate to poor shooting face, but still, with all the cover from the opaque jungle, that was not a bad round for the highborne elves. And they might need it, because someone's charging ahead right now. This is turn 1 for the Sylvan Elf next. The Sylvan Elf get a good magic face with regard to dice, 7/7, but it's not utilized very well. They get no 9 enemy, plus agility on the Dryads, but nothing else goes through. So, after moving the magical forest, the jungle forest, the white lions will have a difficult time charging the Dryads and achieving victory at least the first round. But there's no healing, and it'll depend on the shooting phase how exposed the Sylvan Elves will be to highborne elf fire in the next round. They've aligned all the Sylvan Sentinels to fire on the Queen's guards, as well as the archers on the flank here. The forest guards are also coming around the impassable to take the flank. It's a weak flank, and there's only cavalry and archers to protect it. So the Sylvan Elves may have an upper hand on that flank, but there was no decisive push on this full frontal. The Sylvan Elves fire at the Queen's Guards, killing 6 just by the archers alone, and they flee. The Sylvan Sentinels on both sides of the impossible terrain have a hard time finding targets. They shoot down 1 white lion, and the Avatar of Nature shoots down 1 sea guard. The highborne elves have charged. The white lions attempted the charge as well, but failed. They were farthest away. And the Queen's Guards rally. The Tremann does not lose any wounds, but he actually runs from battle off the table after doing 1 wound to the dragon. So that was a hard blow, and a successful gamble on the flank on the highborne elf side. Very well played. With the cards the highborne elves has been dealt, he's using the few troops very effectively. Now it's Sylvan Elf turn 2. There are charges on the Sylvan Elf side. The Dryads charge and kill the eagle. Unity Divergence is cast on the white lions, but it only does 3 wounds because of the hereditary spell. We remember the hereditary spell underway. They would have fled otherwise if they had not recovered 4 huntsmen, no white lions, from the hereditary. Other than that, 1 wound goes on to the dragon, but it's also saved by the hereditary. So the small high elven force is very stable under pressure. And this is the positioning of the Sylvan Elf force before we take a break and consider the strategic consequences of the war.
So in the start of the high elven turn, the dragon charges the Dryads, and the white lions charges the blade dancers that were chaffing them. The sea guards comes in, reforms and moves 6 ahead, and shoot down the 3 remaining wild huntsmen, which causes a panic on the Sylvan Sentinels, which flee. In magic phase, the Sylvan Elf player uses his binding scroll, so the high elf player doesn't get any spells through. Shooting is pretty effective. 1 unit of blade dancers is shot down by the 2 bolt throwers and 4 Queen's Guards. The Lion Guard overrun into the Dryads, but they flop completely. 8 attacks are allocated on the Dryad matriarchs, 0 wounds. The rest on the Dryads do 4 wounds. The dragon misses all its attacks, kills 1 with stomp, but the mage kills 2. So the high elf player only wins with 1 in combat res, but the Dryad stands. So it can... Yeah, the Sylvan Elf player has some options now, if the blade dancers can see, and we think they can.
Let's check it out.
So we just checked the line of sight on the Dryads, and the elf player got very lucky because the blade dancers can only see the dragon. But it's still a possible charge. Did you measure the charge distance?
16 inches.
16 inches, so it's 11 on the die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's too long. That's a long shot. And
It
they don't
is.
have bows.
Yeah. Well, what do you say?
The mascot agrees.
Yeah.
The Dryads lost 2 combats in a row, and on the second one in their turn, despite having 2 good buffs, +1 strength, and standing in a forest, they broke from combat, losing by 2. And that means the battle is pretty much over, even though the divination master had rallied. Because the highborne elves have the upper hand in the shooting phase. What's our analysis of the endgame here? There were some very prominent battles with the Tremann, for example, which could have tipped either way and decided a lot, as well as this battle with the dragon and white lions, where the chaffing of the blade dancers were just ineffectual.
Yeah, and perhaps these guys over there used too many turns to get into the battle. Perhaps. Because if they had arrived earlier around the flank, then it would have been harder for me. Because now I could just focus everything on the left flank.
Here is the strategic input from the High Elf player perspective.
Yeah, so when I started to deploy, I thought it very important to focus everything on one side of the impassable. So I could focus all my energy there. And I think that was pretty key in this battle, that I had all my force on one flank and the Sylvan Elf player had a couple of points out of the game, basically. He got some shots with the Sentinels, but the archers and spearmen arrived a bit too late. So that was pretty important.